Yep, nope, okay.
Still don't have enough followers yet.
Nope. Still waiting on 50.
How many have you got now?
It's been a year since I looked. Last time I looked, it was like 27. Are y'all all following it?
I think so.
How pitiful are those folks?
All right, we'll go ahead and call the January 29th meeting of the F&A committee to order. Just as a reminder, this was rescheduled from Tuesday. Thanks to the storm, I trust everybody survived well. All right, first up, public session. I see no one from the public. Does anybody want to speak as a private citizen? All right. Presentation and discussion items, update on current projects. Sir.
In your package, you'll find the usual spreadsheet. And this one is, it should be pretty up to date. Since we had a little bit of time off due to the ice and the phone wasn't ringing and there weren't many emails to return, we were able to go through these a little more thoroughly than we normally do to get everything caught up, and also to follow up on a few things where we hadn't received an update because we were waiting on something, such as like the dryer building, I want to say the sludge, biosolids handling, deep watering item, because we're waiting on equipment for that to show up. So we're still, they're still maybe a month or two away from mobilizing. But we contacted them to find out what's going on their end of things while we're waiting. Waiting for equipment to arrive. So it is what it is, but it's all of this should be caught up with pretty quick.
Are there any questions from the committee? Well, we will move on to the goals for 2026. In your packet, you do have 4. We'll go ahead and open for discussion if there's any changes to these, any additions, deletions.
And this was provided to, obviously we talked about it at the board, so we took the information that was provided at the board and condensed, I think it was 5 or 6 or 7, and brought it down to 4, and then discussed it. O&P considered it as well, so there was an item they wanted to add to it regarding evaluating a line extension for consideration in the coming year. So,
Is there anything specific to the financial side of the authority or policy-wise that we want to consider, or we'd like for Chris and his team to consider this year? I know we've been updating policies on an ongoing basis. Is there anything else that you foresee?
no, there's there was I guess about 2 years ago, I was really churning them out pretty good for some things that we didn't have as standalone documents, like the procurement code, the impact fee policy, and what was it, like the financial and accounting policy. And I think now we're kind of looking at some of these, like procurement, there's some things that Lawrence said, well, maybe we need to revisit this. So I think that we'll be discussing that with him some in the coming weeks or months, but we don't have a timeline on that. The records retention item, we have a policy now that was put in place, and this is a mandate by the state anyways, but we had developed, a draft policy, and that took, months, didn't it, for us to provide information to the Department of Archives and History, for them to come back and state how long we had to retain over the documents that we have. What we've since, as we've gone through and continue to go through files and boxes of paperwork that we have, we continue to come across items that were not addressed in that policy. So there's still some work that needs to be done with that, but it's not a priority. If it's not addressed in that policy, then we have to keep it for forever anyways. So it's really more of an item that's gonna be on us to have to do, which, allows us to work at it at our own pace and timetable. So that may be coming up, in the next few months. But, I can't think of anything else, just, looking over and reviewing what we have and possibly making some minor changes or updates to what we currently have.
Anybody have anything? Yeah.
Just wondering, are you still looking for some help, or
Oh, yeah.
still,
Mhm.
are you having any luck on that?
No, we're not. So I did, with that, I did go meet, was that last week? I think it was last week. I met with the Find Great People team that had done our compensation and benefits studies for us in the past. And, well, you asked about this, so that's good. So let me think about that. So I asked them, look at our personnel policy manual and see if there's anything in there that, that you see, that they may see that would be a benefit to helping us to retain staff. That, if there's other entities out there that have, certain benefits or perks in place, like the way they can utilize leave or just anything like that. We're kind of so desperate to be able to, just even retain what we have, even though we haven't lost, we haven't had anyone leave recently. And we're looking for all of that. So there may be so then it's time for us to go through the personnel manual anyways, every couple of years. So there may be something with that will come out of that.
I think a lot of that's happening. We're seeing it at King. A lot of people, they're not asking for an increase of monetary, but they are saying we'd like to have some more time off for family or this, that, and the other. So I think there's a tilt. Used to back in the, I guess, back in the 50s, 60s, whatever, it was all about the money. I mean, that's what. But now we're seeing that where a lot of them will say, I'm good with the monetary, but I would like to have another week off for vacation or something like that.
Well, Lynn here, since she handles exit interviews that we have, I think everybody that's left over the last 2 or 3 years state that it was monetary reasons.
I think there was only one that did not say it was money.
And so that's still the big reason. But if we can't pay what, we've had a couple people leave to go to REWA for $7 or $8 more an hour for the exact same job, not even a promotion opportunity. So they're willing to drive from here to Pelham for $7 or $8 more an hour. That's what, $16,000 more a year. And we can't, so what can we do that may not cost, but that may, like what you say there, maybe look at, but I don't want to even state that that's going to be the case, because I know, the folks they watch our videos, they're going to know we're talking about this, so I don't want anybody to get the hopes up that we're going to offer more vacation time or anything like that, but that we're looking at whatever we can do to be able to not just retain what we have, but to be able to attract as well, because, we're not even getting applicants. We're not getting, the applicants we're getting, like Zane mentioned at the meeting, is probably just people that are trying to show they're looking for work to stay on unemployment.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
It does.
We see that too.
But we're not having anybody qualified at all.
we're facing the same thing, and we've got people who can go, if they got a CDL, they can leave and make $10 an hour somewhere else. I mean, you got some municipalities where, I mean, this is years ago, but everyone got their CDL who needed it, and then an outside organization came and set up something like across the street from the city and recruited and said, we will pay you all this, and took every single one of their CDL drivers. And we see it with, like us in the county, another position, you know, if you have a similar position, you go up 50 cents an hour, people, some will leave. So we don't have a magic answer either, because benefits, with a lot of the younger generation, they don't care about their health insurance, they don't care about retirement. That's not moving the
Not
needle
yet.
for them.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So what we do, like CDLs, we'll take somebody, a position that requires a CDL, we'll take them without anything.
Yeah.
And we'll pay for them to go to school, but in doing that, they have to sign a document saying that if they leave within 2 years, that they have to reimburse us. But we've had one person that left prematurely before that.
Yeah.
And, they had to pay us back. But, they hadn't even, it's not even really that, it's the other positions that one of those is we have had an opening in for a while that does, would eventually require a CDL. But it's the plant operator position, it's the maintenance staff. The maintenance is the more difficult one, because that's not one you can bring somebody in really and train them on the job. They've got to know some electrical, and they've got to know some mechanical. They have to have some type of skill or training before you can bring it in here to do that type of work.
Now, this is reminded me of, I'm sorry, we're kind of getting off goal topic, but let's just go ahead and keep jumping down this rabbit hole. When I first came on the board, you were having some conversations about apprenticeships.
Mhm.
Has there been any more movement on that to see how that work, or has Fine Great People given any direction on if that's a possibility? Because then you could have someone who doesn't have those skills.
Mhm. Well, the thing with the apprenticeship, and that's, we talked about that the other day, that, Kyle and I did, that, would be somebody that's in school currently. But like when we, there was a time, and it was right about a year ago, where we were down, there were 5 maintenance positions. And we had 2 of them. And then, and both of those, I think one of them was brand new, like started January 2nd, and the other one had started, just a couple, 3 months earlier. So we needed people that knew what they were, doing.
They don't have the time to train.
And so, Kyle and I were talking the other day about possibly even looking at doing an apprentice, having an apprentice, even if we are fully staffed, to be able to, if we have an open here, that'd be great if they could slide right into that. But if it's somewhere else, we're helping to, provide practical education for somebody that maybe you guys might hire, or some other utility might hire. So almost becoming a teaching facility as well. But again, that's something Kyle and I have spoken about, because there's no formal training for it. I think Kyle mentioned that there's something Greenville Tech might be trying to put together with REWA, and we've gone to meetings, but how far out that is, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. And we're still, so far away from, physically so far away from those schools that I don't know that you're gonna have very many people that are from here going there to learn and come back to work here.
Well, I was wondering more like Tri-County, having something similar, a partnership with them, and seeing if it's something that can be done. But
We have spoken, Kyle and I have gone and spoken to them, and they don't have any, they've got some programs that might be similar with, some mechanical type work, or some certification programs beyond just the associate's degree. But they didn't have, when we spoke to them, they didn't have any interest in having more of a formal water, wastewater type program as to what they're looking at doing at Greenville Tech. But, you know, we had met with them a couple, 2 or 3 times over the last 3 years when we put that apprenticeship program together. They assisted us with helping to write the job descriptions. But, you know, and I think Kyle, you know, a year or so ago, it seemed like he had gone and spoken to them to see if they had anybody that might be, you know, maybe in like mechatronics or somebody who could come out of those maintenance positions. But when they graduate, they're making more than what we pay them here. So, you know, we can't just compete with that even, so.
Well, would it be an option, since this is a continuing issue, and with the work that the Reconstitution Committee is doing and the possibility of consolidation in, you know, a couple of years' time, so you are going to need a lot more people? Would it be appropriate to put a goal to work with either Find Great People or some other consultant on coming up with a plan of how you're going to staff? I mean, I know Reconstitution will be doing some of that, but they're kind of focused more on the getting the bylaws and starting from ground up. Would it be, you know, should we put that as a goal here so you at least have a leg up? And you have enough notice to where if we need to put something in the budget, you have time to put something in the budget?
I think you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to put the budget up. I mean, that's what's happened in Westminster over the last few years. They pulled things up and turnovers are really down to almost nothing. And that has helped a lot, but we'll have to come up with a way of, or an idea of the cost involved with it. I know that's always been a hesitation here, but it is what it is. If you're gonna run an operation, you have to pay people. And once you get somebody, you wanna be able to keep them, so.
And that's what, you know, what we're trying to look at now with that that compensation study. In the way, you know, I think the cities do things different than we do because we operate strictly on that merit only pay. So our pay, you know, the pay bands don't really move until we do the comp studies. So it may be 3-4 years between when we do these studies as to what our hiring ranges are, but we're having to hire people considerably above minimum, you know, levels now, like considerably above it. Just, you know, when we get somebody that, and they're good, or they make, you know, we make it can work. And
Unless you get somebody that's good, they're gonna be in demand.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other people are gonna notice them and
Yep.
lure them away. So, you just gotta, I mean, it's a reality that we're facing now that it may not be something we like, but it is what it is. You still have to operate. You have to have people. And it will cost you more in the long run if you, like you say, if you're the training ground, it's gonna cost you more because you're never gonna get where you need to be. You're always gonna be training.
that's right. I agree.
Been there, done that.
Do we want to add that, or do we just want to?
I think it's worth adding. I mean, it sounds like it's been an ongoing problem. It's still if you don't have the people, the rest of these goals don't matter, right?
Correct.
And if you can't operate, ultimately you're.
Well, you just tell Chris he's gotta do it all.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I'm looking down the road, I'm hearing this of the issues that you have now. I'm concerned that if the reconstitution goes as planned and you have many more miles, you're gonna burn your current employees out, and they are gonna be looking.
It's pretty much doing that now, I think.
And, if you already had a plan, I mean, even if it's part of that wage and comp study, can you tell us how many we're going to need if we have this many extra miles
Well,
of line?
yeah, and part of what we're looking at doing, and I think that with that, I do want to hold off on looking at what staffing levels would be, because that would be part of what the next step would be, because we'd have to have an engineer come in and help almost like with the, you know, the administrative and financial side of the CMOM portion would be what we would have to look at staffing when and if that consolidation does happen. But the board, or I should say the board, the FGP, they're planning on doing a presentation. So we did like an internal, survey that, they implemented and a survey for existing staff to submit anonymous feedback to them, and then they reached out to former employees that have left us to get feedback as to, why they left and some of those type of things. So when I met with them last week, they kind of gave me information on, what they had looked at, not just, for example, that they said that communication, find ways to improve internal communication, whether it be from top down to the bottom up, that was something that scored like a mid, they went from 1 to 5, if I remember right. I didn't take the survey. But was it 1 to 5? So that was
Yeah.
something like in the 3 range. They said, well, there's some room where we can make some improvements. So they're presenting us with a full plan or suggestion for what we would be able to do that, to keep them, because right now we meet, maybe twice a year, the whole agency organization. So one of the things I mentioned, maybe we get together and have more of a town hall like once a quarter where, everybody can kind of be on the same page so that everyone knows kind of what we're, these goals and missions and vision, what we're working toward and why. I think that's a lot of it, is why are we doing some of the things that we're doing. So, looking at whatever we can to do that. But they'll, you guys will be hearing about it. I don't know if they're gonna come in April or May, because they're gonna present the common benefit portion of it to you as well, like Carrie did. Was that 3 years ago? I think it was, last time they did one. So that'll be, but it'll be more comprehensive beyond just compensation and benefits.
Well, with that is there a motion that we do add something, or are we gonna just let the current process run its course? I mean, it's gonna go to the board, it's not being final here.
Yeah, ultimately, because I've taken what they provided to me, it's not on here, I'll add it to that.
Yeah.
And then it'll go before the board to kind of adopt. And really, though, the thing with this, with these goals, and this is all based on what Mayor Ramey had, pushed toward when he was the chair. And it was intended to be goals for the board, not so much goals for the organization. Here, it was something, in organization would be the tools, I think, but these are things that the board, I guess, areas of emphasis that they wanted the board to kind of oversee and lead as well.
Well, I assumed it would be bringing the findings back, and if there were any adjustments that the board needed to make, whether it was budgetary, whether it was administration policy, that we could do it, but. If there's no other discussion on that. Anything else for goals? All right. Committee action items, the December and year-to-date financial reports.
These were sent out by Ms. Stevens by email back on the 23rd, I think it was last Friday, to the board. And they were included in your package. I believe, are they in the packet?
They are. That's what I'm
There,
referring to.
yeah.
Are there any questions from the committee? If there's no question, is there a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. All right, we have no action items to recommend to the board, so the director's discussion and compliance matters, miscellaneous.
All I have to mention with that is just a update on the storm, and there's nothing really even to update on that, because we really didn't have any real matters. You know, I've sent those updates out a couple of times a day, and there's really nothing to them. I think we had 2 pump stations that lost power. One of them had a backup generator, and I think the generator ran for 10 minutes or so before power was restored, and then the other one was so happened to be the smallest station that we have. It was a 100 gallon per minute station in a neighborhood, and it was out for a couple of days, I believe. But we were able to handle it with just taking our tanker over there and pumping it out and hauling it for treatment. No spills. You know, we still need to get out there and make sure that we don't have any aerial lines that may have had a tree or something fall on them to cause a break, but we're not aware of any issues.
How many pump stations are there that don't have a backup?
This is a pure guess. 1, 2, maybe 3.
Is that something that we need to consider in upcoming budgets to add? I mean, just full transparency, while Hollow's doing that, we've got 3 water and a couple of sewer that, you know, it's on the utilities committee meeting today to talk about getting backup generators on those. So
I
that
don't-
when we lose power, so.
Yeah, I don't think we do need to look at that right now. You know, we have other needs that we need to get done, but one of the things that we do need to certainly do would be to have where they're all plumbed, where they could just be, you know, we could just pull up with our backup, you know, our mobile generator, and just plug into them without having to do a lot of rewiring in the moment. So, and that's something Kyle and I, but we've been easing through those, you know, the last few years anyways, in order of priority. So now that we're down to the smaller stations, we're working those into the budget anyways. Well, we have, you know, our biggest concern is here at the treatment plant, because, you know, we do have a generator, but it doesn't operate the entire facility. Like we figured if we lost power here, we had our backup plugged into the building where we could, you know, with it being staffed, they would be able to go when we have power here, and we'd have, you know, disinfection would be able to operate the critical components of the plant, but we wouldn't be able to aerate. We would, you know, we probably likely could have had violations because but, you know, the amount of times we've had power outages that have affected us here for long periods of time have been far and few over the years, but that's something we need to do. And you know, in fact, I just put together the RFP yesterday to have automatic transfer switch put out back that would allow us to bring in a large generator to power the facility.
Have you ever looked at the grants from South Carolina Emergency Management?
We have.
We put 3 in at Westminster this past fall, and they were kicking in the other day, but
We have looked at that, and, you know, we felt like with us being on somewhat of the verge of having to do a facility upgrade, that we would look at a whole site generator at that time. What we didn't want to do was invest money now into something and then it not be able to power whatever we needed.
I was thinking about for your stations or something, you need to do some work there.
Now, I think, you know, again, I think that we're okay with the couple that we have, like that one, you know, the Pelham Creek station is so small that we're able to handle it with a septic truck.
Pumper.
We're able to just, you know, pump and haul from that. So it's not that, you know, we're not concerned really with it. The other one, I think, Halfway Branch, there's so little flow on that station.
Yeah.
Typically, it's able to sustain itself, and it's right there on a major highway. So that's gonna be maintained during the weather. But that's not one of the ones that we had any, we didn't have any issues with. When we had the storm back, Helene, we had the exact opposite problem. We were going out there and turning them off. We were shutting the generators off and shutting the stations down because we couldn't take any more flow.
Yeah.
So that's, we're having each of these things is case by case, but I think, again, we're okay with where we are now. But, even new stations that we have where we go and put generators in, we're still having them where you can bring in an external or mobile unit, because I can't tell you how many times the 60 some odd stations that Hubbard saw at Rewa that had units, brand new generators. For whatever reason, either the generator wouldn't start or the transfer switch didn't operate. So they were kind of useless anyways, and we have to get a portable unit out there for that matter. So all of them were, having it built with where we can bring in a mobile unit. So that's our goal is, first and foremost is to get them that way. Then we can look at establishing, more of a permanent unit if we need to. But both those stations, Halfway Branch and Pelham is, is up near the top of the list, need to be replaced anyway.
Well, just thinking of the last 5.5 years between tornado and Helene and a named ice storm, it seems like their political statement is saying that it seems like it's different than elsewhere. So still strongly encouraged to make sure those emergency operation plans are up to date. And if it is generators, if it is making sure that you have the temporary station being able to whatever, that we know what you need, so that when budgets come through, when capital improvement plans come through, that we've got those included.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, we're working those in. Y'all, those are items that we just generally work into the operating budget that we do, because they're not tremendous cost. Now this one here will be a tremendous cost, and that's why you see it, in this sheet here. This, we documented this on row 15 because of the anticipated cost associated with that. But the ones at the station typically, generally speaking, I know that's a relative term, but they're not expensive.
Well, even being able to say, hey, we've included this, is that making sure board's aware, making sure public's aware, we're paying attention, and line items aren't going up just to go up.
That's right. That's
Because,
right.
I mean, the layperson isn't gonna look at, this, equipment rental line item and know what that is. But, like I said, my 2 cents. Any questions for Chris? Good, all right. Committee members' discussion, is there anything that we would like to place on a future agenda? All right, next meeting, February 24th, is that working for everybody? I'm gonna double check everything else in the afternoon.
While you're looking at your calendars, may I go back and ask a question? Was there anything that, just so that I'm clear, was there anything that you did want me to add to the goals regarding the because I know we had it last year about the succession planning, but was there anything that, from the discussion today, that you would like included in there regarding the staffing? Specifically? I'll be happy to add it, I just want to make sure I understand what to add.
I seem like I've talked a lot, so I'm gonna let somebody else talk.
I mean, again, so with these goals being for the board, sounds like internally you've already got that goal, you've already taken steps towards the staffing, you've got a presentation that's gonna be made. Once you said that, it's like this is an ongoing thing that you've been working on. So I'm not sure if the board needs to have that as a goal, if internally that's already a goal that you're making progress on. But I think an update would, just keeping us updated is.
And it's actually on your sheet,
Yeah.
so it's on row 22, you can kind of follow along with where we are with that. And again, this sheet here is more for us internally than it was put together for the board.
Yeah.
Because we had so many balls in the air juggling.
Sure.
So we don't let anything slip. But it's something we're certainly working toward.
Absolutely.
It was put into the budget, presented as such for this current year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's critical for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do. Thank you.
Alright, I didn't hear any opposition to the February 24th at 9, so we're gonna assume that's good. Anything else? Alright, well, I will wish everyone luck on the next winter event this weekend. Hope everyone is prepared for it. And that your driveway is better than mine.
Just remember, you don't have to walk up to a car if it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was doing
That's
a
it.
favor. I thought I was like, man.
Don't want to do that too often.
You might get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn, and thank you. Have a great that way.